The deafening sound of the gunshot shattered the stillness of the night. 10-year-old Adeola froze, watching in horror as the policeman pulled the trigger, killing his father, Alobi, without mercy. The lifeless body of the man who had taught him kindness and integrity crumpled to the ground. Adeola couldn't comprehend the betrayal, but survival instincts kicked in. Without hesitation, he bolted into the darkness as the policeman yelled and began chasing him. Once upon a time, in the heart of Bodija, a lively town in Ibadan, there lived a man named Alobi. Alobi was known for his generosity and integrity. A carpenter by trade, he earned just enough to take care of his family, yet he always gave to others in need. His wife, Mojisala, worked as a seamstress, and together, they lived a modest but happy life with their 10-year-old son, Adeola. Adeola was a bright and cheerful boy who loved his father dearly. The neighborhood adored him, often marveling at his politeness and intelligence. Alobi had instilled in his son the values of honesty and kindness, emphasizing that doing good was its own reward. Life in their small home was simple yet filled with love and laughter. One evening, as Alobi walked home from work, a bleeding man stumbled into his path, clutching a briefcase tightly. Without thinking twice, Alobi rushed to help the man, taking him to the nearest hospital. When he opened the briefcase to find identification, he discovered it was filled with bundles of US dollars. Alarmed by the amount of money and its suspicious nature, Alobi decided to contact the police. "Police are your friends," Alobi had told Adeola many times. He believed it with all his heart. So when Sergeant Fagbo arrived and praised him for his honesty, Alobi felt reassured. "You're a rare breed, Mr. Alobi. We need more people like you in this world," Fagbo said, patting him on the back. Fagbo offered to give Alobi a ride home. It was late, nearly midnight, and Alobi agreed, bringing Adeola along. But as they drove through a desolate road, Fagbo pulled over, claiming he needed to relieve himself. Alobi, ever trusting, stepped out of the car with him. That was when Fagbo turned on him, gun in hand. Before Alobi could react, the trigger was pulled, and his lifeless body hit the ground. Adeola, witnessing the horror from the car, knew he had to run. His small legs carried him as fast as they could through the bushes, his heart pounding in his chest. Fagbo, determined to silence the boy, gave chase. In his desperation, Adeola tripped and fell into an abandoned hole. Too scared to cry out, he stayed hidden as Fagbo searched nearby, motoring cars. Eventually, the policeman gave up and drove off. For 2 days, Adeola remained in the hole, weak from hunger and dehydration. He thought about his father, the lessons he had taught, and the life they had shared. Those thoughts kept him alive even as hope dwindled. By sheer chance, a group of men gathered near the hole for a secret meeting. Adeola, hearing their voices, used his last bit of strength to call for help. The men were startled but quickly rescued the boy. Their leader, a man called Okirimeta, took a particular interest in Adeola. After nursing him back to health, Okirimeta listened to his story. The pain in the boy's voice stirred something in the hardened criminal. Okirimeta, who had lived a life of crime, saw potential in Adeola and decided to raise him. Under Okirimeta's guidance, Adeola grew into a skilled and fearless young man. By the time he was 18, he had adopted a new identity, Akin. He became Okirimeta's most trusted ally, feared and respected by many. Akin quickly made a name for himself. He was bold, cunning, and unyielding. He robbed banks, raided mansions, and fought off law enforcement with precision and confidence. Yet, he wasn't entirely devoid of compassion. Akin's victims were often the rich and corrupt, while the poor benefited from his generosity. He paid for children's school fees, fed the hungry, and supported struggling families. Old women like Mama Ayabo prayed for him daily, seeing him as a savior despite his criminal ways. However, The trauma of his father's murder never left him. Each act of violence he committed was a rebellion against the system that had taken his father from him. During one of his raids, Akin's crew targeted a newly built house. They stormed in, shouting orders and searching for valuables. But as Akin scanned the living room, his eyes landed on a young woman, Ebra. Akin had seen Ebra weeks earlier and had been captivated by her grace and beauty. He had tried to find her since but had failed. Now, here she was, standing before him in the most awkward of circumstances. For the first time, Akin hesitated. He ordered his crew to leave without taking or harming anything, an act that left them confused but unquestioning. Akin couldn't get Ebra out of his mind. He began pursuing her, sending expensive gifts and letters. But Ebra, a principled and modest woman, rejected them all. Determined to win her heart, Akin began to change. He worked on his English, polished his manners, and showed her a side of himself that no one else had seen. Over time, Ebra saw beyond his tough exterior and agreed to give him a chance. Their relationship, however, caused a rift within Akin's crew. They saw Ebra as a distraction and a threat to their operations. When Akin announced he wanted to live the life of crime, they turned against him. The crew set a trap, tampering with the charm Akin always wore for protection. But with the help of Okiri Meta and Moma Ayebo, Akin escaped their plans. He decided it was time to leave everything behind. He married Ebra and, with the blessings of his mother and Okiri Meta, relocated to a new town. A new beginning. In his new life, Akin worked hard to build an honest living. The scars of his past remained, but with Ebra by his side, he found peace and purpose. He often thought of his father, wondering if he would be proud of the man he had become. Though his journey had been dark, Akin's story was one of survival, redemption, and the enduring power of love.